In this video, we are going to be going over moving pivots and zeroing out models. So in this one, we're basically just going to go ahead and start modeling and just get a little box model going here. We are going to be working on a fluorescent light, and we're just going to do 40 centimeters by 150 by 8. So at this point we have a nice little box here, but you can kind of notice that on this side I have 2 squares, and over here I have 3 squares onto either perspective side. So at that point we're just going to go ahead and click on the model, and we are going to zero it out. By zeroing it out, by clicking on the model and pressing W on the keyboard, it will activate the move, select and move tool, or you can go up here and select the move tool itself. So at that point, you're just going to make sure that it is at 0. You'll find the X, Y, and Z value at the bottom. So go ahead and highlight those and hit 0 for the X, 0 for the Y, and Z is already at 0. So we are now at 0 value. One thing that you will find that is sometimes when you make a primitive model, sometimes, for instance, the effect pivot tool will actually be in the center of the actual model itself. If this is the case, and you'll know because your model is actually in the very center of the actual grid at a true 0 from the center, then you actually need to move it to the actual grid space to make sure that it is flush with your base. So at that point, if this does occur, go ahead and go over to your hierarchy, which is up at the top right. You'll just click on hierarchy, make sure pivot is highlighted as well as affect pivot only, and then at that point you'll actually want to be able to affect your pivot overall. In order to do this to a grid base, is you're going to want to go to snaps toggle up at the top. You want to turn it on and also right click it. At this point you will be able to affect your pivot by grid points, pivot, perpendicular, vertex, edge segment, as well as face. Face is not a good one unless you're trying to just mount it to that face for any particular reason, but we actually want to attach it to a vertex or vertices. Once you've selected vertex, just go ahead and exit out of that, and at this point you will be able to click on the yellow box to drag the tool wherever you are needing to. I usually click it to a vertex is because it sits at a true value at that point. Then you can just go ahead and turn off effect pivot, but notice that your values have changed once again. Since the vertices is way over here at 75 centimeters, you're going to want to leave that alone, is because you're not trying to balance that in the center. You want to focus in on your Z axis, which is your up and down. So all you have to do is just highlight that, hit 0, and it brings it back to the true value of 0. Then you can actually just go right back into your effect pivot point, and then you can just go ahead and then you can zero these out to put it back at the very center of your model, but it is still at the true value of 0, which is on your grid. This way you have actually zeroed out your model from where you're normally basing at. Go ahead and turn off effect pivot and go ahead and back over to your modify tab, so you can continue to modify this on its own. And at this point, this will conclude our tutorial on zeroing out your basic model.